Okay, Nitaniko Beverly Knowlton. I'm an elder for In From the Coal, and today I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to start with how the world was created. And in the beginning, the Creator's Son was here, has been here right from the beginning of time, and will be here even when we're gone forever. In the beginning, he he was alone. He was very alone, and he had a lot of powers, mystical powers. One day he started thinking, his mind was always on the future. And one day he started thinking of, well, he can make something, create something. And then he took some dirt and spit on it and made a ball. And in this ball, because of his powers, it's suspended in the air. And for the longest time, he played with it. And because of his powers, he can make himself small and play on it too. And this went on for a while. And then he started thinking again, because his mind was always on in the future. He thought he'd make something besides the ball. So he took some dirt again, spit on it, and and made it long, and they turned out to be snakes. And then he put them on a ball. So over time, these snakes start increasing. They start multiplying, and he had commands for them when he put them on. And now they were coming so fast that they were destroying the land, and they weren't listening to his commands anymore. So Creator's son started thinking, there's something I got to do. So one day again he took the mud and he spit on it, but underneath it was hot, and he put it all over the ball, and that just killed the snakes all. He destroyed all of them. Uh, uh, and then after a while he started to check out the land, and he was walking, and then he noticed there was this one snake, a mother snake that was going to have babies. It was somehow saved from that hot lava that he spread all over, and it was between these rocks. He decided to let it go. He said, from now on, it'll be, you start increasing, nat- the nature will take care of it. So he let the snake go, and he he continued. And one day he noticed he was playing around, and he noticed he was all dirty. And he thought, gee, there must be something I can do. And that's when he thought of putting grass all over the ball. And he did that, and it was soft, and he really liked playing on it. And then one day he was looking at it, and the grass would die off, and the new life would come. But it was too green, and he thought, I have to do something to put color on it. So he invented the flowers. He put all the flowers all over. And he was happy with what he created. And but there was still something missing. Something he was missing. And one day after he had been playing for a long time on the grass, and he sat down, and then a thought came, why don't I make something in the image of myself? So he took the dirt. He took the dirt and he spit on it and made a figure. And when he finished making it, he blew into the nostrils of it, and it became life. And that was his mate. That was the moon he made. And he was very happy with what he created. He said, "This mate will bear fruits, will multiply. So over a time, Creator's son and his mate were very happy. And then the babies start coming. The first one was a boy, and the next one was another boy, and went on. And they had 7 boys, 7 sons, and that's what he called the Big Dipper. And they continued living in their camp, and they were really happy. He was peaceful, and his sons start growing up, and he was teaching them. And one day he started teaching them language. And then one day the woman said, why don't we name our sons? And the last one they had would turn out to be pinkish color. So they decided to call him Raw Man. And the sons and the Creator's son and the mother, they really loved the last one, the Raw Man. Well, the sons became men, but there was no night and day at that time. So what they would do is they'd come home, they'd rest, they'd eat, and then they go back out and do their chores. And the woman would stay home and she'd work around the camp, and then she'd go into the bush to look for some berries and roots for supper. And so life was good. The Creator's son was really happy with the kind of life he had. And and then the snake was having lots of babies, and each time the a baby snake would be born, the snake would tell them the story of how Creator's son had destroyed them and how she survived. But they didn't really listen. They just, except this one snake. And he got really angry for his mother. And he thought, he couldn't believe that Creator's son would do this to them. And he thought, when I grow up, I'm going to get revenge. I'm going to have get revenge back on the Creator's son. So time went along, and and one day the woman was out in a bush looking for some berries, and next thing she heard something on his back. She turned around. Here it was a person. It was tall and slim, and she was really startled. She couldn't move. She couldn't talk, and this person told her, "Don't be afraid. I'm just a being like you." But when she first seen this figure, the woman, she had feelings for him. So they sat down and they started visiting, and and then the woman went back home, and that's the Creator's son. They all came home, and they rested and they ate, and the woman found the Creator's son being very quiet. Finally, he told him why he was quiet, and he said, "Well, there's a strange smell." And the woman said, "Oh, I think might be the roots," because she knew where that smell was coming from. So they all went out, did their chores, and time went on, and the woman would still go out into the bush. But all this time, that person the woman seen was Snake Man. He turns himself into a man because the Creator had given them some powers too. So the Snake Man just kind of watched her for the longest time, and the right time came when another time she was out in a bush picking berries. He appeared to her again, and the woman was startled to see him again because she hasn't seen him in a while. And she was so happy to see him. She, there was just that instant connection with him, and they visit again. And so as time went along, the woman went out more and more to meet the snake man. But all this time, Crater's son knew what was going on. It got to the point that Snake Man knew he got the woman. She was so, there was just a strong connection between them. And then finally he told his identity to the woman, and told him a real sad story of how the Creator's son had destroyed them. And the woman believed him. So and Creator's son knew what was going on. And one day they came home, and he thought, Creator's son thought, well, today I'm going to find out what they're doing. So they rested, they ate, and off they went. But this time Creator's son didn't go to where he normally would go. He he went and he hid in a bush, waiting for the woman to finish her chores to go out and meet Snake Man. And so finally the woman finished and rushed out there to meet him, and seeing what happened. Creator's son was so saddened by what he's seen, and what made it more harder was he created the son and he created the woman, and now they were doing this. Was really ashamed of what he's seen. So the Creator's son went back and looked for his sons and told them what their mother was doing. And then he told them that he had a plan. He had a plan what he was going to do. And the sons were very upset, were very hurt by what their mother was doing. And he told his sons, I'm going to give you guys something, and then when an emergency happens, I'll let you know how to use them. So the the first one, the oldest one, he got a bladder of water, and this bladder is made out of weeds and grass, and it's all interweaved. It's like a basket. So he gave him a bladder of water. The next one, he gave him, he showed him how to use his fingers on the ground. The next one got a small rock. The next one a stick. And the other one a bladder of air. And the next one a bird. And the youngest one got a bladder of water. So because Creator's son had this plan, they all went back home, and they rested, and the woman made their meals, they ate, and then they all left again. But this time they didn't go do their chores. The sons, they waited for their father in one place, and Creator's son rushed to where he was meeting Snake Man. Snake Man had a dent, and he had told his woman, you come here and you tap on it and I'll come out. So so Creator's son was waiting there. He tapped on the ground, and he had to hurry because before the woman finished her chores and come to meet him. And he tapped on it, and the snake came out. Just as it came out, Creator's son had a flint knife and chopped his head off and kept on hitting the snake till it died. Creator's son was very saddened to see what he did because he had created them. And then he hid in a bush. And the woman quickly did her choice and rushed there to meet because she was really attracted to Snake Man. When she got there, she was shocked to see him all in pieces. She started crying, and then Snake Man rushed back to his sons and told him that he was going to gather up some wood to help him and, burned them. And at that time, they heard the woman screaming and yelling, running back to the camp. And she knew it was Creator's Son that did this. And she was screaming and crying, hysterical, and saying, I'm going to kill you, all of you. I'm going to get Raw Man first. I'm going to kill you all. So they all rushed back and they start piling up wood before the woman came back, and they hid. And the woman came back and she was so hysterical. She laid on top of the snake and was trying to put the pieces back together. She was crying, and she didn't even know that Creator's Son was there making this fire. And then he he burned both of them, and this big fire, and the boys came and they put more uh, s- sticks in there, and they watched it. And Creator's Son told his sons, we have to really watch the fire, because if a spark goes out, the woman can come back alive. So they were at the fire for the longest time till they made sure there was nothing left. And then they went back to their camp. They were really sad. They were all real sad because their mother had died now too. And Creator Son told them, well, in four sleeps, an emergency will happen, and that's when you use your gifts. So they went about, they did their chores, they come home, and but this time they had to take care of each other. And then the fourth sleep, I should say, the fourth sleep, they were at the camp. Next thing they heard us screaming and yelling. Here they didn't know that one spark did come out. They didn't see it, and the woman became back alive. Because when Creator's Son made his mate, he also gave her powers too. And when they heard her screaming and yelling and threatening to kill them, they all start running. They made sure Raman was first because they didn't want it, the woman to get the youngest. And then they all start running. At the back was the Creator's Son and the oldest. And but because the woman had such had a lot of power too, she was able to catch up with them, and they were really just really running fast. And just before he caught them, the oldest one, the one that had the bladder of water, Creator Son told him, throw it at your mother. And so he did that, and no sooner that rain start falling on the mother, and it was so hard for her to, she was slipping, and but she was still so angry. And finally, she had to stop herself and think, okay, there's a way I have to get out of this. And after she regained herself, she managed to get out of that rain. And then seen the tracks and started running again. And by then, they were had gone quite a ways. But because of her power, she ran really fast. And she caught up to them again. And again, she was at their back, but she was screaming and yelling. And she told the next son, mark the ground with your fingers. And he did that. And a big canyon went in front of their mother. And so she was held back with this great big canyon. She was running, trying to get out of it. And this gave them a little chance to catch the breath, the seven sons, but they knew they couldn't stop running because the woman seemed to have a lot of powers. And again, she got out of it and she started running again. And she was running so fast. She was still screaming and yelling, so they hear her coming towards them. Again, she got to them. And the second, again, the creator told the next son, throw the rock at her. And so he throws the rock, and this big mountain came in front of the mother. And the mother ran this way and that way, trying to get out of, and it was so hard to climb the mountain. Finally, again, she had to control herself because her anger was, on the creator's son for killing Snake Man. And so she had to calm herself, and she found a way to get out of the mountain. And as she could, way up ahead, she could see these dots, and she just knew that was them, and she started running. Again, she was crying and screaming and yelling, and she was, and they heard her again, and they start running fast again, but no sooner she caught up with them. And just before she grabbed hold of the oldest, the creator's son told the next boy, throw the sticks." And no sooner the sticks were thrown towards the mother, a big forest appeared before her. And it was so thick, the forest, she couldn't get through it. And again, she had to calm herself down and think because of her rage. She's being so angry. And she managed to get out of that forest and start running again. And was screaming and yelling and threatening to kill them all. Again, she caught up with them again. And again, the father told the next son, throw the bird. Throw the bird at your mother." No sooner the bird was thrown to the mother, a thunder and lightning started in front of her. And she has never witnessed this kind of a storm. And the woman, again, she regained herself and she got out of it. But by this time, the sons were getting really tired of running because they had been running for a long, long time. And Crater's son thought, "Well, I have to put a stop to this now. My sons are getting really tired." And this time the woman thought, "Well, I'm not going to scream and cry this time. I'm going to sneak up to them." And because every time I screaming, they seem to know I'm coming. So this time she decided she wasn't going to scream, so she started chasing them again. And just as she caught up with them, she told the next boy, "Throw your bladder of water." And she did that, and this big water was in front of the woman. And the creator and his seven sons went up in the air. They went up and up. They went so high, and finally his sons were safe. Now they could relax. They got away from their mother. But they could see their mother running back and forth on this big ocean. But there's just no way she could cross it. It was too big. And the mother finally sat down and took some sweet grass and lighted it and was praying. After she finished praying, she walked over the sweet grass. And the sweet grass, when she walked over it, it lifted her up and she started going up and up into the sky. And here she seen her sons up there. And she went up so fast and she was getting so close to Ramen. Just before she grabbed Raman, the Creator's son threw a hatchet at her leg and severed her left leg. And then the woman was still angry. And Creator's son went up to her, and they don't know what she was telling her, but she was gently rubbing her head. And but she was still, wanted to kill them all. But while he was rubbing her head, the Creator's son was taking his powers back from the woman. And right there, the Creator's son knew that this wasn't going to end. She was going to continue coming after them. Creator's son finally made night and day. So during the daytime, the woman won't see her sons, and at night time, the 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 boys will rest up. And then he took the woman and put her on the moon, all by herself with nothing. That was her punishment. And today, when astronauts go up to the moon, there's just nothing there. And that's my story. I hope you all enjoyed that.